So I noticed it has not been published since last night. So last night I put I pressed in the publish, so to make it accessible. I think Megan just forget to do that thing. So far is so far okay. Chiawe, anything you have difficulties with copying up the unit? Is it getting busy now as it goes to week 8 already, or how is it so far?
I have go through the video of lecture 7, and so far, oh, lecture 8 haven't go through.
You take a process mass transfer, everything is okay, no problem. No.
Yes, everything is okay.
Okay. Hi Chan. Hi Tarindu as well. It must be a bit early in Sri Lanka. I think it should be like 9, 8, 7:30, isn't it? 7:30 in the morning, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Early.
Okay. So I'll just start with what I want to discuss today. Hi Chang Ying. How are you doing, Chang Ying? You good? Okay, let's go with the assignment 1. So drop-in session today we'll discuss the assignment 1, and also we'll discuss take-home test 1. Okay, that's just what we are going through. And then if you have any questions on the assignment 2, also we welcome you to ask questions. Okay, which is, I think the problem 1 of the assignment 2 has the same nature with the problem 1 on assignment 1, so they should be quite direct to solve the assignment 2 problem 1, except for the problem 2, which you need to work with your mates and try to get it solved using either MATLAB or Excel or other software. Assignment 1. So assignment 1 that was distributed at the end of August, I think, and then it was due on the beginning of October, and it's about the flow of Bingham plastic and Couette viscometer. So in figure 1, we show you the descriptions of what happened in here. So in a Couette viscometer, the inner cylinder is stationary, the outer cylinder is rotating. So you have a variations in the velocity from the inner radius to the outer radius. Okay, so the flow will be in between the inner cylinder and then the outer cylinder. Okay, and then the figure 2 in here is giving you the stress acting on the fluid element for flow between rotating cylinders. And then as you go here, then we give a description. Okay, figure 1 is giving the schematic, figure 2 is giving the stress. And then we said that the flow is similar to the flow induced by a sliding plate. The main differences is that the surfaces are curved. Okay, so what happened in here is that we don't use a normal Newtonian fluid in here. We are using a Bingham plastic. For a Bingham plastic, we give a description in here. So for below the yield stress, the velocity gradient vanish. So for the below the yield stress, then it's described by equation 1. And then for the above the yield stress, it is described by equation 2. And then last time, I remember that one of you asked me questions because then he wants to compare he or she wants to compare the final expression that he get with the correct answer. And I don't give the final correct expression for the velocity profile, but then I think that there must be a glitch in the problem. So then it turns out that I make a typo. I forgot to put in R in front of the D over the R of the theta divided by R. So then I revise again the assignment 1 problem, and I give you extra problem to solve these things. Okay. And then on the other hand, for the Newton's law of viscosity for below the yield stress is given by equation 3. Okay, it's all basically coming from the transfer phenomena appendix in here. Okay, so some of you also asked me whether it is possible to solve using B6. So it's not possible to solve using B6 because why? Because in here for the B6, the equation of motion has been simplified for a case that is applicable only to a Newtonian fluid with constant rho and mu in here. Okay, so in here we are dealing with the cylindrical coordinates. So if for those that basically use this B64, B65, and B66, they will not get the correct answers. Okay, so I have given you a hint that you need to use this B5 basically because this one is more general, and you need to simplify this equation of motions in terms of the shear stress. Okay, what I need to point out in here is that some of you go into the momentum transport and try to solve it using this example, example, where is that example in here? This example in here, example 3.6.3, operation of a quad viscometer. So again, when you try to think and try to solve a problem, then please pay attention into the problem statement instead of trying to find a solution from another example that may be similar. Because okay, this is similar. Okay, it's just this one is K, and then this one that on the other one is using an E, but it's not similar because the way that they solve in here is totally different. So they solve using equation of motions from B6, but in our case we have to use the B5. Okay, so the final expressions will be different. It's not going to be 3, 6, 32. Okay, so that is the thing that you need to pay attention. You need to, instead of trying to solve it using another example, then you need to focus on what I have given. If you have any problem, then you can ask me to ask whether it's correct or not. Okay, so how do we solve these things? So we can solve it using appendix B. Okay, appendix B6 in here. Okay, appendix B6 in here. So you have this appendix B6. Sorry, I have to go up again. Appendix B6. It's not really precise the way that I'm using it in here. I have to scroll down slowly. Okay, so you need to go into appendix B6 in here. And then which one will you use? You need to use the cylindrical coordinates in here. Okay, and then you need to go and basically derive the postulations in here. The postulations in here is, what is the postulation in here? Okay, the postulations in here is that you only have a velocity component in the radial directions. So that can be solved either using this what I put in here. Okay, this one in here, where basically you are using the B65 in here. Okay, you are using the B65 in here. Then I want you to basically relate this to your postulations back. So like this one, it has to be equal 0 because your velocity in the angular direction does not change with time, and then your velocity in the radial directions is equal 0. Okay, and then your velocity is not a function of your velocity in the angular direction is not a function of the angle. If it is a function of an angle, then the velocity will increase with at the higher angle, or it may decrease with the higher angle. Okay, so this is very important. And then your VR in here is 0. So everything like here, I need the detail. You need to put the details of everything. Okay, and then your P is not a function of your pressure, is not a function of angle. Okay, so when all of this finish, then what essentially you will get is this equation 56. Okay, or equal to then these notations in here, del over del r will convert to d, because you don't deal with the partial with many derivative. You only deal with one derivative in the r directions. So this is one way to solve the to get the shear stress ODE. Okay, 56 and it will simplify to 57. The other way is that you can use also what I call in here is what do you call this one? This one. The ordinary differential equation for the shear stress can be derived using a moment balance. So we can also use a moment balance. So for the moment balance, then figure 2 will be useful. I will upload this record into the Canvas, but I will not upload the solutions, the PDF solutions for this problem, because I know that some of you may pass it down to your juniors, and in the future I may want to recycle like 2 years or 3 years down the line, and I noticed that that some of you already get being passed the materials like that. So I will not do it, but rather I want everybody of you to basically watch the recording, and then in the same way, then you can look at the solutions in here. Okay. So the solutions in here is you use a moment balance. You multiply this shear stress with the length of your. It's basically what I put in here lah. Okay, the moment balance is basically you multiply by, which can derive from figure 2. Okay, so this one is you basically equalize what applies on the R with what applies on the R plus delta R. So after you rearrange the term, you should end up with this same ODE as well. Okay, once you get the same ODE, then you can integrate these things, and then you can get this shear stress on the R, and the angular directions multiplied by the R square will be equal to C1. Okay, once you get that, then you need to go back into your below the yield stress equations number 1. So because for the below the yield stress, it has been specified that this d over dr of this will be equal to 0. Then what you put in here is you integrate, then you get this velocity on the angular direction will be equal to C2 multiplied by R. And then look back into your figure again. There is a boundary conditions in here. The first boundary conditions is that at R equal ER, the velocity on the angular directions will be equal to 0. So the second boundary conditions is at R equal R, the velocity in the angular directions will be equal to this multiplied by R. Okay, what is the symbol in here? This omega multiplied by R. Okay, then you put in first to the BC1. When you put in the BC1, it becomes clear that the velocity in the angular direction will not be 0 at ER, unless if your C2 equal to 0. So in this case, your C2 should be equal to 0. Then only in such a case, then your velocity in the angular directions will be 0 below the yield stress. So then we connect it back into the physical situations in here. So the physical situations in here is that there will be no velocity below the yield stress. And you can derive it on this on using another way. I mean, for example, I have a note for those that are interested into how you can basically come into the conclusion that the velocity in the angular directions will be equal to 0 below the yield stress. Okay. Then again, you want to find in the shear stress below the yield stress. How do you find the shear stress below the yield stress? I already give you a hint in here already. So you need to use this Newton law of viscosity for below the yield stress. So then what you need to do is you can put in this thing again and connect with your postulations. Okay. So in here, the first term in here, this term in here will be equal to 0 because of the equation that is given. So equation 8 is equal to 0. So this will be 0. And then how about the second term in here? The second term in here is that the VR will be equal to 0 because then there is no velocity in the R direction. So that goes back into the way that you look into the system again that is given on the figure 1. There is no velocity in the radial direction. If there's a velocity in the radial direction, then the velocity should go from here to that direction, which is not the case. So, yes. Okay. I thought that there is somebody that want to ask a question, so let me continue back again. Okay. So I continue here again. Anybody asking a questions? No? If you want to ask me a question, then you can wave your hand. If not, then I'll continue. Okay? If everybody is okay with that, then I will continue. Okay? So no shear stress below the yield stress. So that has to come. I need to see all the derivation process that leads to this thing. So what you derive is that the velocity below the yield stress for the angular direction will be 0, and then the shear stress below the yield stress should be equal to 0. So that I need to see that thing will being derived. Okay, and then above the yield stress, what can we do? So we have to stick with equation 2. So with the equation 2, we have earlier derived that we integrate these things. Okay, so we use equation 7. We substitute into the equation 2. So substitute into or these ones. Basically, we basically substitute the expression that is given on this equation, which is the equation 2. This equation 16. We substitute it into the equation 7 in here. Okay, once we substitute into equation 7, then we have this term in terms of the d over the r of the velocity in the angular direction divided by r. Okay, then you just use a mathematical process. You just put in this d over the r into the left hand side, and then the other term into the right hand side. Okay, and you go carefully, carefully like this. Then you know that you have a ln r term that basically appears in here. Then it's the same again. You put in the boundary condition. You substitute the boundary conditions that you get for the first conditions again. You put in the boundary conditions. Once you put in the boundary conditions, then you will be able to get your C1 and C2. But of course, it will not be direct. It will involve several steps that you need to cross-check again carefully. Okay. Then once you put everything in carefully, you will be able to get your C1 in here. So your C1 will be equal to this term in here. Okay. And then in the beginning, you will be able to get your C2 as well in here. Okay. So the most important thing is you plug it in, and then you integrate this d of the velocity in the angular direction divided by r. Okay, and then you will get the expressions of the velocity in here in terms of the C1 and C2. Then you will be able to get your C1 and C2 from the two boundary conditions, the first boundary conditions and the second boundary conditions. Then after you do everything carefully, you will get C1 and C2. Once you get your C1 and C2, then you need to put it in carefully again. Then you will end up with this velocity in the angular directions in here. Okay, which is what I give you in the revised problem statement. So after I realize that there is a typo, then I give you these things to help you to find the correct expression. So if I don't want you to get the correct answer, I will not give you these things. But what I care more is the process. It's not just the real answer. I care more about the process rather than just the real answer. The real answer is important, but also the process at itself. I want to see the detail as you go and derive everything, so that I'm being convinced that you basically understand how to derive the problem. And then in the similar way that you get your TR and angle in here will be equal to C1 divided by R square. So you get this by substituting. If you have derived the C1 already, then you just plug in. You go back again into these equations in here, then you get this TR angle in here. Okay, that one is equal, that this one will be equal to C1 over R square. So it's a functions of, is inversely proportional to your R square. Then you put it into your this one in here, then you should get this shear stress. Or alternatively, you can also derive this shear stress by the expression that I give you in this assignment in here, right? You put it in here, And what you need to do is you need to derive these expressions of this with respect to R. And I want you to basically go and give me the details of the derivations. I want the detail of the derivation so that I see that you basically know what you are doing. Okay, because it has and try to make your writing as neat as possible, because otherwise I will have a difficulty to basically judge whether it's correct or not. And then you will get these final expressions of this shear stress. Once I give you this velocity profile, then it's easy for you to derive the shear stress in here. And then how about the torque acting on the inner cylinder? The torque acting in the inner cylinder is given by the product of the inward momentum flux, the surface of the cylinder, and the lever arm. So this one, I also already give you a hint as well. See, I don't just give a problem without giving you a hints everywhere. I give you the hints, the product of the inward momentum flux, the surface of the cylinder, and the lever arm. Okay. Then what you need to do is, if you do everything properly, you can either take the inner cylinder or you can take the outer cylinder. It will give you the same way. So it will not give you the different way. It will give you the same way. Okay. I mean the same result. Because every problem, there's only one correct answer in transfer phenomena for this kind of problem, because this is not an open-ended problem. Okay. Then I ask you to think about this. I want you to give me from your own. Everything up to now has been straightforward, but I also want you to tell me. So transfer phenomena is supposed to not just be the mathematical derivation. It's supposed to give you a way to basically go into the lab and figure out a physical property from something that is possible to be done using an experiment. So this is where the transfer phenomena has significance. So I want you to explain how this mu naught and the shear stress naught can be determined. Okay. Then this problem is in here. You can see that basically, and if there will be no T naught unless if there is a d over dr of these things. Okay. So what you need to what you can think is that what we can measure is the torque, and then the torque and also the rotational speed as well. The rotational speed is the two quantity that we can measure. Okay, so in such a way we can plot the torque with the rotational speed, and they should be linear with the slope proportional to the mu naught and intercept proportional to the T naught. So this one is connected with the question that I asked you on the torque. So once you derive the expressions for the torque, then you need to think that actually the torque is the one that can be quantified, and also this rotational speed in the real situations of the co-wave viscometer, that this two is the one that can be measured. Alternatively, what your group can do is your group can go into the Google, do another research into this co-wave viscometer in order for you to be able to get this how to quantify this mu naught and the shear stress naught. Okay, and if you plot these things in here, you will know that only at this particular condition, then there will be a sudden torque in here. Okay, and then you can tell that this quantity in here, since I minus this E is less than 1, then your ln A will be equal to minus. Okay, so then your plot of the torque versus the rotational speed will have this form. Okay, and this connects back with the Bingham-Plastic property, because only at torque above above this torque in here, okay, the fluid will start to flow and flow faster as the torque increase. Okay, and there will be no torque if it is applied here up to this value in here. Okay, so then with this, then you can derive the quantity of the mu naught and the shear stress naught in here. Okay, then this one in here is the derivations that that you can use for the equation of motion. Most of you basically follows this because this is easier rather than using the moment balance. But this moment balance and that equation of motion is coming from the same principle. They are both physics. So if you derive it properly, then you can get this quantity in here. Okay. But you need to think about what is these things in here basically implies. Okay, so this delta R, delta Z, and then this R multiplied by this delta angle. What does it mean? And then multiplied again by the R. Okay, so far that most of the difficulties is coming from the problem 1 of the assignment 1. Then as you all go into the problem 2 assignment 1, this one has been covered in one of your tutorials. So I will not give you a problem that I have not at least giving you some materials to help you solve or basically a process, because the motivation is not to test you. The motivation is not to make you struggle. The motivation is basically to help you improve on what you have been given. Okay, although sometimes I need to test as well your independencies in solving the problems. Okay, so for problem 2, in the problem statement, it is given that the heat transfer coefficient has been found to depends on the velocity, density, heat capacity, viscosity, thermal conductivity, and diameter of a rod in a specific experiment. So determine the necessary dimensionless number that you need to basically correlate this heat transfer coefficient with the velocity, density, heat capacity, viscosity, thermal conductivity, and the diameter of the rod. Solve this particular problem then. Okay, so first then you need to go and basically make a table of all the particular physical property that is involved in here. Okay, so you make it in here. There is a heat transfer coefficient, velocity, density, heat capacity, viscosity, thermal conductivity, and the diameter. Some of you solve this problem using the solution that I derive in here, but some of you did not. You use another way to solve this, and it doesn't matter with me. Whichever way, as long as you get the correct answer, then you will get mark. But like I said again, I don't just judge the final answer. I also judge the derivations, the process that the process that leads to the derivation has to be correct in everything. Okay. So in here, the heat transfer coefficient, you need to go into the online resources or go into your transfer phenomena to find what is the heat transfer coefficient unit, and then derive the dimensions. The velocity also the same, the density also the same, the heat capacity, the viscosity, thermal conductivity, and then the diameter is the same. Okay, so if you derive it in terms of the joule, it will be better to convert the joule into the equivalent units in terms of the mass, length, and time. Okay, so joule in here can be converted into kilogram, meter square, second minus this one is second minus 2, basically. Okay, then you will get this. And then also for the heat capacity, then I want to convert this joule also into the mass, length, and time unit as well. And then for the thermal conductivity, also the same. Then you can equalize them. You can put in that this H equal to the constant multiplied by the V, the velocity raised to A, the density raised to B, then this, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. Then you plug in your dimensions. The dimension has to be correct. If the dimension is wrong, that you will get a wrong expressions that basically connects the left-hand side with the right-hand side in here. So for in this term, then you will have length, mass, and then what is this particular variables in here? This particular variable in here is the time. And then there is a temperature as well in here. Okay. So then you can start on substituting so that you can basically get connections between each other. So you only left with one, with A, C, with basically A and C. And the way that people did this is different for each other, but you will be able to get the final correct answer that basically your H in here will be a functions of or your Nusselt. This one will refer to the Nusselt number. So if you do it correctly using whatever ways, then you will get this Nusselt number is equal to the functions of the Reynolds numbers and the Prandtl number. So as long as if you do this correctly, then you will get a quite high mark for this assignment 1 problem 2 and assignment 1 problem 1. Okay. So the first one covering 60 marks, the second one covering the 40 marks. Okay. And then for this assignment 1, I give you 5 weeks already, or 4 weeks or 5 weeks time to basically work on this one. But so far, I'm not too sure whether you are occupied with your or basically in online environment like this. It's a bit difficult. I know it's difficult for everybody. I can understand. And I have been trying to be generous when I mark as well, but it doesn't help when I mark, but your writing is not neat. Your writing should be neat, because I'm not just marking one assignment. I'm marking several assignments. So it will be helpful if I can write something that is neat. And everything, the derivation, don't spare me any derivations. You need to basically put everything that you have in the derivations. So it's really pitiful for those that get quite low for the assignment 1. So for assignment 1, if you get a low mark, then you need to work quite hard for the assignment 2. Then I also welcome you to contact me if you have any problem for assignment 2. So try to do as much as possible for the assignment 2, because you know that take home test 1, I also try to give a quite long hour as well for you to do. Okay, so now I will move into the assignment, into the take home test 1. I give you 4 hours for take home test 1. When I ask my students that to actually do this take home test 1, they told me that maximum is 3 hours is enough already. But then I think that probably this is not applicable to some of you, so that I give you 4 hours, and then I also give you extra 30 minutes to basically tidy up everything that you have, okay, to make it into a presentable form. So the first question is related with the volume flow rate through an annulus. Okay, this one is quite, well, it's not straightforward, but I give you all the equations and everything that you put in here. But some of you try to solve it in not in terms of the unit that I give. It's always better to just stick with the problem statement that I give, because whenever I give a problem, I want you to be able to solve it using whatever I have given, because this is anyway, it's not an open end, how to say that thing. It's not something that comes up with 24 hours where you basically an open book test. Not like that. It comes with the limited time, and it's the role of the lecturer to give you everything that you need to solve the problem. So when you do this kind of tests, I will not expect you to basically go into the online resources, but rather you need to focus on the problem, and then you may basically open you basically may open or if you have prepared yourself well, then you just go ahead with the problem and try to understand the problem. Then you will be able to solve that thing. Question 2 as well in here, everything has been given already. And then this one is the question 3. Question 3 is the one that is a bit more challenging. But as you go to question 1, question 2, and question 3, then the level will increase. So question 1 is you have to convert the pressure difference correctly, and the conversion factor has been given in here already, right? This conversion factor is given already in here. Okay, and then this has to be converted. So the thing that is most important in here is put attentions into the unit. The unit has to cancel with each other to give you the correct final answer. So that's the most important thing. So everybody get number 1, problem 1 correct, I think. If I'm not wrong, I think should be correct. And then justify that the laminar flow assumption is met in here. And then you basically can convert this one into this, or I'm giving you this RE, and then you have to be able to understand how to basically derive that particular quantity of the Reynolds from the quantity that is given, or the one that is derived. Okay, if you get this one, then this will cover 20 marks of yours. And then for the take-home test question 2 in here. It's quite straightforward already. I give you the following differential equation and ask you to basically integrate using these two boundary conditions. No need to derive everything from the first principles and derive the momentum balance and everything. Simply just do whatever I ask you to do. In here, it's clear already that solve the differential equation to obtain the velocity distribution in the narrow annular region. So what you need to do is just integrate in here, okay? And then also connect back the shear stress expressions with the postulation. Okay, that one is also important. Then once you get this one, you will get this Vz, and then you will be able to get your C1. Once you get your C1, then you will be able to get these final expressions of your velocity in the Z directions. Okay. Then what I give you in here, then you need to connect this back with your postulations. Okay, because there is only the velocity in the Z direction. So this first, the first quantity will be equal to 0. Correct? That's what you need to check again in here correctly. Okay, because you derive this quantity that is minus mu dvz over dr in here. Okay, and then the second one is the mass rate of flow through the annular region. Now I want to check your understandings on the integration by parts. Okay, so for the integration by parts, then what you need to do is I want to see the details of how you split this double integral into a single integral. I want to see your understanding in here. So this particular variable, this d theta or the angle, they are not dependent on the r direction, so they can be split. But some of you may omit this one. I don't want you to omit this one. You need to show me how you get this one. Okay? So if you omit this one, then I will deduct your mark accordingly. I want to see everything I want to see everything step by step. Because to me, it's not just the final answer that is important, it's the process itself. Okay? Once you get these things, then you will get this two row density multiplied by V naught divided by ln K and everything. And then you need to define the new dimensions variable. I mean, it's not the only way that it's possible. The way that I solve this one is one way, but then other people have solved another using a different way. As long as it is clean and everything is good, then I will give you full mark. For example, for the integration by part, I want to get the details. What is this u? You need to get this u is equal ln x, and then this dv equal x dx, and then du is equal dx over x. Your v is equal half x squared. Okay, as you plug in here into the integration by parts that I give in here, I want to see that you derive these things in here. If you don't derive all these things, then there will be a mark deductions that is applied to you equally well to everybody. Okay, if you put in everything correctly and all the derivation process is correct, then I will give you everything, every mark related with that one. In fact, I think some of you also get, I think like a few, like 3 or 4 people get quite high marks on this one. Okay, once you get everything correctly in here, you put in these things in here correctly. Then in here you need to know that this e is basically becomes x becomes e in here, because we are not dealing with the x in here, but we are dealing with these e variables in here. Okay, then if you get the correct answer, you will get this one in here. Then at the same way, I also want you to solve the force acting, obtain the viscous force acting on the rod over the length L. So this one is quite straightforward, and you will get 10 marks for that. That you need to be careful again in basically splitting the integral in here. Okay, you need to show me that you separate the integral related with the z and the integral related with the theta in here. Okay, and then put in everything properly. Don't leave any steps. Don't assume that I will understand everything. Always put everything clearly, neatly. Then you will get this one. Okay, then we continue again to the question 3. For the question 3 in here, now instead of asking you to derive and solve from the differential equation, I'm asking you to basically go and derive from the first principles. So then for this particular problem, there is no heat productions or consumption. So there is only heat in and heat out in here. So the shell element has been given. I already draw you clearly in here already what is going in and what is going out in here. Okay. And I already take another precautions to give you a hint in here in terms for you to be able to utilize in terms of the thermal conductivity. Okay. So what you need to do is you put it in here. Everything has to be clear. Then once you able to do the thing, then you will get this QR is equal C1 divided by R. Then you will get this thermal conductivity that varies linearly. You will have to get these expressions in here. Okay. Once you get that expressions in there, then you substitute into your QR. Then, if you are correct, then you will get this one in here. And then in here, you get a dimensionless variable that you can express in terms of this theta, basically. Okay, or I said theta. Then you need to apply the chain rule correctly. In here, the variable that the two variables that are changed is this theta and then this temperature in here. So when you derive this theta, then this T minus T naught will be equal to dt because this T naught is a constant. Okay. And then this T1 minus T naught is basically a constant as well. So it's 1 divided by T1 minus T naught. Then you have to derive these things properly. Show me the steps when you derive this thing properly, so I can give you full marks on this one. If the way that I think that you derive these things is not proper, then of course I have to deduct a mark because I need to get a clarity into what you do. Okay? Then once you get that thing, then you can integrate these things. Once you integrate this thing, then you put in the boundary conditions. At R equal R naught, T equal T naught. At R equal R1, T equal T1. Okay? Then you can get this BC1. Some of you does not solve it using the same way that I solve in here, but as long as the final result is the same, and then the process, everything is complete, then why would I deduct the mark from you if everything is correct? Okay, so you will get this expression in here, which is quite complex. But then the heat flow through the wall is quite easy because that you have to multiply the area of the outside wall with this QR at R equal R naught. Then you will get this one, and then you will get this Q. Your Q will be equal to this. And then you, in the final part, I want you to show me how the expression in A can be simplified when R1 minus R naught divided by R naught is very small. Interpret the result physically. So some of you are correct until here, but then I ask you again that you need to basically interpret the result physically. So then it's very important that you interpret the result physically. So I want you to show that basically Q is equal to the area multiplied by the average thermal conductivity multiplied by the temperature gradient. Okay, so it's very important that you put this thing. If you don't interpret the result physically, then you will not get the full marks for that particular problem. Okay, so now I give you, I basically already explained everything. Do you have any questions from your side regarding this assignment 1 and take home test 1? And then on the same as well, then you have assignment 2 as well that I already give you the same, like assignment 2. You are dealing with the same problem in the Coit viscometer. So the way that you solve this thing should be quite be easy. I mean, it should be almost the same way, but just need to be careful. Okay, you need to be sure, and please don't spare any derivations. I want to see. I'm not those people that likes to see my student fail in my unit. I want to see all of them pass, but also at the same token, I apply the same criteria to everybody. So in order for you to pass the unit, then you have to basically pass the requirements. Okay. And this figure 1 is illustrating everything again in here, so everything has to be explained properly lah in here. Okay. And then the problem 2 in here is the one that needs a lot of thinking and working with your friends in here. So this one is giving you the velocity profile for the transient change in velocity. So you need to know that this one is a function of r and time. Okay. Then the questions in here is time required to achieve 1% of the steady-state velocity profile in a circular tube and rectangular channel. So you plot the relation between the relative velocity and the normalized distance and determine the time for the velocity profile in both the circular tube and rectangular channel to reach within 1% of the steady-state values. So let me give you a hint. You are given an equation 8 that is a function of r and time. So meaning that this equations in here is for the transient, it's for unsteady state value of the velocity. So the first thing that you need to do is basically try to basically derive what is your steady state expression. And then once you get your steady state expression, then you can divide this against your steady state expression to basically get your expression, your final expression. And then I already give you what is the meaning of the Bessel functions in here. And then in the assignment 1, it's basically given that we are using only the Bessel function of the zero order in here. So you need to go back into your Bessel function and check in here. Okay, what is the Bessel functions in here? So for the Bessel functions at the zero order, for example, you have a 0 at this particular value, and then you also have a 0 at this particular value, and then you will have a 0 at this particular value. And this one can be simply being used. You can find these roots by using a MATLAB comment in here, or if you prefer to use another method such as Excel or another program, you can also find a way to solve these things. Okay, and then I already give you also another additional notes in here. So what I want you to see is you want to check if you want to do the structured programming, because some of you already did process modeling with me last semesters, and some of you don't. But you can basically go into the online resources and find how to write a MATLAB functions for the series, for the math series. Okay, for example, you can use a for loop in here, or you can use the while loop in here. Okay, so this one, for example, is giving you a sample of a program for this series for the sinus J. Okay, so I'm trying to give you everything that I do, but I also want to test you in terms of the independency and your capability to basically think yourself to solve a particular problem. Okay, I've been talking for so long. I mean, now I'm inviting questions, if any. If there is no questions, then I will conclude this drop-in session, and then I will basically put the record online so everybody can see what I have been discussing today. And then you are all welcome to contact me when you have any problem. And please don't hesitate to contact me again. I keep on begging you, don't hesitate to contact me again. I mean, I'm always available in here, but on the appointment, because sometimes I might not be able to answer you straight away, but I will always make time for my students. Okay? Any questions, Chewe? Any questions, Fernando? Chang Ying? Or Tarindu? Tarindu. I have described everything. I discussed everything. Please make sure that you contact me if you have any struggle or something like that. Okay, and how to say that thing? You need to match the expectation. When I give you long time to solve the particular problem, then it means that that particular problem will need long derivations or long solutions. Okay, So by all means, I mean you discuss with your partner how to get the correct answers for that one. And for the assignment 2 problem 1, for example, the correct velocity profile and the shear stress has been given to help you as well on that one. Okay. If there is nothing else again, then I guess I think I'm losing my sound already for today, because I really give lecture for a very long time, and today I'm just talking too much today. Then I will conclude my sessions here. Okay, will that be okay with everybody? Then I'll catch you guys again on the next drop-in session. And don't forget that I think next week, Monday, there will be an online quiz. I will do it within that the 2 hours of my transport phenomena. Okay, for each, remember that when you do that thing, you need to be careful with the instructions, and then also you only have like 25 minutes, and the material will be mostly on the heat transport, and then a very small number of questions, like only 1 or 2, that will be on the momentum transport and also on the mass transport. But for mass transport, it will only go and touch on very superficial aspect of your mass transport. Okay, so you need not worry, but you just need to check again everything that you need to prepare yourself from the week 1 through week 8, basically. Okay, if there is nothing else again, then I think I will excuse myself. Okay, and I wish you all the best for the remaining one. I don't put much materials into my transport phenomena, because I know that as you go into the final week, into the final weeks, then it's getting more tough and more saturated for you all, because you will get more assignments as well. Okay. Thank you so much. Then I think I'll stop my